So Eldrazi is borderline broken in Legacy, and basically the entire deck is modern legal. So hello folks, Phil Gallagher aka ThrabenU here for a rare modern video, and today we're going to be taking a look at John's modern Eldrazi deck list. Modern Horizons 3 brought a lot of new and powerful cards into Legacy, and those cards are also modern legal as well. You're not going to get the extremely powerful mana base to support this that we have in Legacy, but we have an okay substitution. Ugin's Labyrinth normally just taps for 1 colorless mana, but when it enters, you can exile a colorless card with mana value 7 or greater from your hand, and if you do, it taps for 2 mana instead. And later on, you can tap Ugin's Labyrinth to return that card to your hand. So, this Eldrazi deck can play a very large number of high-costed cards because they kind of serve as free mana ramp spells. And Gemstone Cavern is supposed to do us... Let's rephrase that. Gemstone Cavern is supposed to give us kind of 6 effective copies of this bonus mana acceleration. And there are some very notable differences between what we're looking at here and the Legacy version. In the Legacy version, Sowing Mycospawn is one of the best cards in the deck, because at 4 mana, which often happens on turn 2, very frequently turn 3, you get to do this and play a Wasteland. And when you start getting to 6 mana, it can be kick it, exile one of your lands, Wasteland another one of your lands, or exile one of your lands, get a Gaia's Cradle, or an Eye of Ugin. And I believe Eye of Ugin is banned in this format because, the previous Eldrazi winter had to take some things away from the fun Eldrazi shell. So theoretically, this deck can do some really silly things, like play a turn 1 Trinisphere, which feels very broken by modern standards. You would have to have an Ugin's Labyrinth, a 7-drop, and be on the draw for Gemstone Caverns. So a lot has to go right in order for that to happen, but it is theoretically possible. As far as the sideboard goes, the only thing that I don't intuitively understand is Damping Matrix. Activated abilities of creatures and artifacts can't be activated unless they're mana abilities. Now, I understand the words on this card. I understand what this does, but I don't understand what this is targeting. As someone who is outside of the modern metagame, it'll probably be obvious relatively quickly. So yeah, let's go ahead and jump into some matches here. I don't usually explicitly ask for likes and comments and things like that, but I am recouping some losses from not recording for a week due to the hurricane. So likes, comments, subscriptions, that sort of stuff are really going to help me out right now specifically. And should you need some cards, especially for MagicCon Vegas, which is coming up, you can order them online and pick them up on site from my sponsor, TOAMagic.com. Tales of Adventure is an awesome store. If you're looking for them in Vegas, look for this purple color. It should be really easy to spot. Promo code ThrabenU will save you 5% on your order. And if you are ordering things to your own home, you also will get free shipping. All right, let's battle. My opponent has revealed a Giganta Companion. Oop. I have turn 1 It That Heralds the End. Turn 2 Glaring Fleshraker. Hopefully turn 3 Thought-Knots here. Hopefully that is reasonable. Sure. So probably a Boros energy deck from the look of things here. Ooh, that means I can Thought-Knots here on turn 2. That's cool. So we'll play Our Lord. I imagine that the All is Dust here is kind of my win condition. That at some point I'm going to do that, wipe out a gajillion cats or something like that, and take over the game. No follow-up 1-drop here is nice for me. If this thing's just attacking for 1, that is not all that bad. Okay, so here's where I don't have knowledge. What is the ratio of 1-drops to 2-drops in this deck? Like a random Boros energy deck. 2-drop, 2-drop. Pretty even, actually. I don't know whether putting this on 1 or 2 is better from experience. But if I don't think my opponent has 1-drops, then the answer is probably put it on 2. So let's do that. So 2 and 4. Oh no! Right, this is not real. 2 mana. Okay, well, we'll Thought here then. Just to use my mana efficiently. So my opponent currently has no energy, so Galvanic Discharge doesn't currently kill my thingy. That probably means that I take Static Prison. And my opponent will probably fetch a Surveil land at end of turn. And keep their card. Oh, right, the Aether Hub does that. Alright. Johnny. Sure. So my opponent has 2 energy. Still kind of planning on working towards All Is Dust as my finisher. No colored mana yet. This does not make fun bonus mana. So let's do this, and then use the Ugin's Labyrinth to put a Chalice on 1. This gives me bonus mana for later. And we would like to kill all these creatures at the same time, so that this doesn't turn into a Planeswalker. Arena of Glory, sure. Oh, that sucks for me. I can technically keep playing spells. A little hard for me to ramp out further. And this isn't actually taking a card here, but it's doing some damage and helping to stabilize the board. I don't think I want to expose this in combat, because this is how I'm going to keep casting colorless spells, so I don't want my opponent to double block. My opponent notably can't cast white spells and can't cast 1-drops. So I block this. This turns into a Planeswalker with 5 effective loyalty. Yeah, I'm not into that. Anything that potentially causes me to lose Glaring Fleshraker is not great. That could be Flage Fuel, I guess. Gigantha to hand, sure. No castable cards. Sitting back defensively is not great for me. I attack with Thought here, just hit my opponent to 11. I can still single block on either of these safely. Yeah, I'm gonna crash in here. Am I drawing to a basic forest as an out? I guess that's important to know. I am. I have 1 basic forest, 1 basic wastes. Probably not casting this. Drawing the basic forest would be hot. Alright. Yeah, so that's coming in for 2. I let that happen. And we kind of hope that my opponent can't cast that Gigantha. Let's send in with Thought here again. Opponent goes to 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, potentially 5. I still would need 2 lands or 2 spells to get to this. Working towards this is how I beat Gigantha. So I think I'm going to cast this for X equals 1 rather than X equals 2. I don't know, maybe I just beat the Gigantha by my opponent not hitting a land drop. And I hedge against Amped Raptors and other cards. I could see it. Alright, my opponent's at 6. If my opponent doesn't hit the land, they probably just hold back their Cat Warrior token this turn. Yeah. Okay. So now I will just cast this, deal another direct damage to my opponent, and it's okay that we're now in a board stall, I think. That gets countered. Alright, cool. No castable cards. I'm passing the turn, unfortunately. Alright, we're chilling. So Cavern of Souls, I don't name anything on the way in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I need 1 more mana to Devourer of Destinies. Is this an exile or destroy? Exile. I could exile the Blood Moon. Not sure if it would be correct to do so versus just exiling the Ajani. My opponent can't cast white spells like Flage right now, so they can't remove Glaring Fleshraker. Nice. I think I just keep them off of white spells. Let's cast this. I'm gonna exile the Ajani. Ping my opponent. Ping my opponent. The Thought here is lethal and has to be blocked. I don't want to attack with Glaring Fleshraker. Yep, this is fine. And I have another Devourer of Destinies. I'm not scared about the Gigantha anymore. The Gigantha is a 5/5. I have a 6/6. Yeah, you can have your 1 life. Probably can't attack to use the energy. Sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Let's do this again. Basic Wastes was a fantastic draw. So we'll do this. Exile the Gigantha. Ping my opponent. And then we get to swing in for lethal. There are a few things sweeter than your opponent potentially just losing to their own Blood Moon. Okay. So Dismember can remove creatures. Trinisphere actually has some text versus the Cascadey stuff. This can get rid of static prisons. I don't think I care about that. Relic has some text versus Flage. This is where I don't have matchup experience to, like, know what is most important. But I have just a massive ability to customize my deck here. I don't know that what I just played was a typical game. So my guess is Going Microspawn is hard to cast. I take that out. My guess is Trinisphere on the draw is slow. I take that out. Wastecape Battle Mage is probably not actually an answer to a Blood Moon, because I'm not going to have both colorless and green at the same time to kick that, so I don't think I like that. The Sowing Mycospawn is a way to get my forest or my wastes. I also just think it's hard to cast and sometimes comes down after Blood Moon. I like this. Chalice invalidates a decent number of my opponent's cards. I think I'm going to trim one of these to give myself another early game play. I'm unsure on Sowing Mycospawn. I might take it back into the deck on the play because I have a decent chance of being able to fetch out Wastes or Forest. Probably Wastes before my opponent Blood Moons. I am such a good fucking magician. Look at this shit. Blood Moon me harder. So we can reveal Devourer of Destiny. It's going to be sort of a once upon a time effect. We get to look at the top 4. We can put one of those back and exile the rest. And there is a Guide of Souls. So I wouldn't mind finding a 7-drop here so that I can play Thought-Knot Seer on turn 2. How do I feel about another Thought-Knot Seer? It helps stabilize the ground. Probably an above average draw. So I'm going to play Ugin's Labyrinth and imprint this. And then pass the turn. I'm going to imprint it now so that if I draw another 7-drop next turn, I can play Thought-Knot Seer ahead of curve. I'm going to take out that. Should have done it before I gave my opponent priority, but it doesn't really matter when there are so few cards in graveyard currently. Sure, why don't you exile a card for me? So Ocelot Pride Guide of Souls is very good. This is going to help my opponent go wide and get a bunch of energy that can allow them to fly over my ground-based blockers. So my Thought-Knot Seer-based plan is not looking great currently. This turn could be bad for me. Okay, that's not great, but I have both my basics. My opponent probably can't cast a Flage now. I am going to go ahead and draw a card off of this accordingly. 7-drop. Sure. I think my opponent's onboard creatures are pretty likely to beat me, though. I get slowed down from casting the Thought-Knot Seer in the short term. And this is just going wide quickly. This only now taps for 1 red mana, not any colorless, so I'll pass. I'm taking 4 + 2 in this combat. Ooh, they do have white. Oh, double shit. Oh god. What an incredible turn. So Amped Raptor happens. Or another Ocelot Pride. Fuck me. There's 9 energy here. My opponent can put counters on 2 of these. We can just do that. My Chalice of the Void is a little better on the play. My Trinisphere is a little better on the play. My Sowing Mycospawn is a little better on the play. I think I do need to respect Flage by playing Relic of Progenitus. That is not a card that I have seen, but it is conceptually a problem card, I think. So this doesn't have a 7-drop to go under it. So I only have 2 mana here. I have okay cards. I just think I'm capable of doing better. Yeah, this is a turn 1 Chalice of the Void on 1. I am into this. So what goes back? Probably the second Ugin's Labyrinth. I probably keep colored mana so that I can evoke a Nulldrifter if I draw one. So Devourer of Destiny trigger. Well, there's a Nulldrifter. I have 4 mana currently. So I can play a Thought-Knot Seer on turn 3 in theory. Or I can draw 2 cards next turn. I think I like the idea of this creature. So yeah. Exile this. 2 mana. Chalice on 1. And hopefully that buys me a decent amount of time. My opponent's deck does have some very, very, very impactful 1-drops that we are shutting off currently. So we knew that draw was coming. I'm going to go ahead and play Cavern on Eldrazi this turn. Whatever this pause is here from my opponent, I like it. Pass turn. I wonder if there's a way to answer a Chalice of the Void. Let's find out. If there is, my opponent probably casts it here. Oh, yeah. And that's not technically a counterspell, so Cavern of Souls does not stop that from happening. So I suppose I could get Blood Mooned here and be taken off a mana. There's the third land. There's the Blood Moon. I don't care about that if I draw any other land, because then I just play Thought-Knot Seer into Thought-Knot Seer. So the current question is, like, which one of these lock pieces is ultimately going to end up doing more damage? I think it's my Chalice. Sure. So Amped Raptor happens. Opponent hits Static Prison. But, you know, I don't think I'm going to dismember this card immediately. Does not feel necessary. And it feels like answering an Ajani might matter more. Disruptor Flute is fine. My opponent's going to name Thought-Knot Seer, unfortunately, which is a pain in the ass, since I happen to have two of them. That card is not even in my deck. Yeah, so my opponent just chose to not take the freebie that they had access to there. I will take your castable card. Opponent has Static Prison and 2 lands. I would love for my opponent to put Gigantha into their hand this turn, and then I Thought-Knot Seer away. What are you... Is there just literal no way to cast that? The opponent chose not to put Gigantha into hand. Tell me what you're working with. Okay. Gigantha's not big enough to live through Dismember anyway? Yeah, I guess I'll play this. Ocelot Pride. Just Arid Mesa left over. There is a new Amped Raptor. Finding a Guide of Souls. Or just fuel in the graveyard. Okay. Not doing anything with the Gigantha. That's actually not a bad draw. So yeah. These are now 5/5s. Which is very relevant. Versus a pair of First Strikers. Hey, it's that card that I talked about. Alright. Requires colorless. I imagine that I just attack with both of these, let my opponent make their blocks, and then dismember something, and I end up very far ahead. Okay, opponent is just chumping, in which case, pay some life, pay some mana, kill that. I just get 2 chump blocks for free, and then next turn I am currently showing lethal. I don't think my opponent played that one well. I don't play a lot of Modern, so, like, I didn't know what I was doing in sideboarding, but like, I think if you Disruptor Flute the Thought-Knot Seer that you knew about from Reprieve, like, this game goes on for a very long time. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com, which is just the best place to keep your online deck lists. And one of the things that I love about them is that you can use it to keep track of what cards you do and don't have for a deck. So for example, in this deck list, I have all of the cards, so there are nice blue bubbles filled in here. And that's automatically ported over to your collection tab, where you can see exactly what cards you do and don't have. Okay, I have a single mana here. That is not going to do it with this deck. My opponent revealed a Gigantha as well. So Ugin's Labyrinth plus 7 drop plus Chalice of the Void on 1. This is going to be a keep. I think I like the 3/3 body of Sowing Mycospawn more than the It That Heralds the End here. Let's do that. Do this. Looks like it is going to be another Boros energy. And oh, it is a Ragavan. Hello, little buddy. But I like an All Is Dust in hand. 2, 4, 5, kind of 6. Yeah, I will take an All Is Dust. So Ugin's Labyrinth, trigger, put Devourer of Destiny under it, tap for 2 mana, Chalice on 1. Could get Blood Mooned as soon as this turn. My opponent can hit some big scary stuff from my deck, but Ragavan makes treasures. Treasures make colored mana. And so the scariest things, for the most part, my opponent can hit, they can't actually cast. Sure. Opponent has the One Ring in hand, and they can cast it next turn. The One Ring does not die to an All Is Dust. Ooh. Don't mind if I do. Cavern on Eldrazi. Play Fleshraker. I don't know how just absolutely buried I am going to get by the One Ring. So counting my Eldrazi Temple, I have 2, 4, 5 mana. Sowing Mycospawn can get me another land. That is 7 mana. It might just be correct for me to take a block here, despite the fact that Glaring Fleshraker is a batshit crazy card, so that my opponent doesn't continue to just get treasures every turn for the rest of the game, and like those treasures make it easier for them to deploy cards. Sure. Oh, they are not just going for the ring immediately. That's hopefully good for me. So 2, 4 plus green is 5 mana, so I can't cast with Kicker, and I think I want to just cast it this turn. So 2, 4, 5, 6. Let's not get Forest. Let's just go ahead and go bonus mana here so that I can work towards casting this as well. So I have 2, 4, 5, 6, and 7, although not all immediately in the same turn. Yeah, and all his dust will eat that eventually, so that's actually fine. Would I like to trade 3 damage for 2 damage? Yes. Yes? Yes. I'll trade 3 damage for 2 damage here. I hope my opponent plays white, like, just some creature this turn rather than the One Ring. They play the One Ring, I just hold back my Sowing Mycospawn, and that's actually okay. I'm at 14. Ooh. That is Gigantha to hand. Is the 2-for-1 or all is dust enough? Then I 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Next turn, cast this. I can get rid of something like a Gigantha. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wait, no, I can't. All is dust, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, this is 6. Sure. Am I okay trading damage 1-for-1 again? I think so. Get in there. 11. Lage. Sure. I'm going to take 2 here. Ooh. This is great. Now I can Thought Knot Seer, try to stabilize the board from this, and probably end up getting... Wait, hold on. I thought there was a One Ring. Oh, I confused mechanics. That did not go to hand. Sure. Well, House of Void's good. I will take the Gigantha. I thought there was a, like, pseudo-cascade mechanic. Oh, it's fucking Explore, whatever that shit is called. Yeah, okay. I mixed up Explore and the Cascade. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So I would like to do this, leaving this land open, attack for 4, and then I can put a 6/6 back into my hand. That's fine. I can just do this with this timing. So there is potentially a Flage coming back that I need to be thinking about. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I can just do this for x equals 3. I think it's not a problem if this turns into a Planeswalker. I can just beat that with Devourer of Destiny. Let's send in. That's fine. Chalice on x equals 3 with Devourer of Destiny to take out the Planeswalker or whatever blocker I think is relevant. You have a cat. Oh. Yeah, sure. Let's just take out both of those. Attack for 4. Hold the Devourer of Destiny for the next blocker that could happen. Fetch is fine. Veil is fine. Junking a land. Chalice is good. To send that in. Opponent goes to 1. Then we will round it out by making it so that my opponent can cast literally no spells. Okay, they can cast them. Okay, I think I decided Trinisphere was slow on the draw, and I subbed Dismembers in for those. I think I decided that Sowing Mycospawn was hard to cast, and I think I trimmed an It That Heralds the End for the Relic of Progenitus. Still a little unsure about this. I think my opponent this round is playing better than my opponent last round. This hand doesn't go turbo or anything. It's probably fine. We get a Devourer of Destiny trigger to kind of smooth out the first turn or so. And sometimes I can just play a Chalice on 1 on turn 1 still. Like I get 5 looks at that. I guess 6 looks at that. So trigger Ozilek's Command. Ozilek's Command with Glaring Fleshraker. Okay. I'll say that that is an above average draw. I'm going to go ahead and do Eldrazi Temple and pass here. Maybe I don't need the Kozilek's Command if I already have one. But like, it is just a removal spell that scales with the game as the game goes on. Am I going to get mooned? I am not going to get mooned. Reprieve is not what my opponent is looking for. That's interesting. If Glaring Fleshraker lives, my next turn is pretty nutty. But it's pretty unlikely to live. It's possible that I should just exile a creature, make some spawns, and then try to have a better following turn. Let's do this. Let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, Kozilek's Command, make some spawns, exile a creature, cast, make some spawns, exile a creature. Yeah. And we're just going to use that as a way to stabilize the board a little bit while flooping down a Chalice. That way, my Glaring Fleshraker is more likely to live for a Kozilek's Command combo. Air quotes combo. Prevailing is fine. More Amped Raptor. Hitting Ocelot Pride. I think you cast that to put it in the graveyard for Flage. Ooh. Can I safely take 4 damage? I think so. I hope so. So this shuts off most cards other than Flage. And then I can start doing some other cool stuff. Although my opponent's deck does have the 1 ring in it, I guess. But I'm not sure if my first opponent had. I'll take 4. Thought Not Seer. So this goes on Eldrazi, obviously. 2, 4, 1, 2. Thought Not Seer stabilizes the board better. So I can go 1, 2, 3, play Fleshraker, do Kozilek's Command for X equals 1. Yeah, that's not great. Despite the fact that this is not maximizing my value, I like playing this out this way. Okay, so opponent has no relevant cards in hand. They have 2 lands. Well, they're going for haste off something. Obsidian Charmaw. Sure. Starting my Eldrazi Temple, that makes sense. That doesn't just easily die to Kozilek's Command. That thing could very realistically kill me. That's unfortunate. This has to stay under here. I think I need the mana. Well, I think I'm going to come up a little short here, but I am damn close to just doing a giant Kozilek's Command that just gives me the mana to spiral the game out of control. Yeah. Those were really good back-to-back top decks. So now I'm just dead to this. Dismember doesn't do it. Unfortunate. Let's try again where we're on the play. Yeah, I can maybe beat the Blood Moon there, but the Obsidian Charmaw was too much. I don't think I'm changing my sideboarding. I think I'm happy enough with my play patterns here. This is fine. So we're going to do this, imprint the 7-drop, and pass. And then I can Kozilek's Command away my opponent's 1-drop that they play. Or potentially Thought Not Seer if it seems like that's going to be better. If I draw a soul land. With 2 Kozilek's Commands here, I think I am okay using my mana for this turn. But I don't have matchup experience to know for sure, like, how bad is it if my opponent just goes double 1-drop here? Like, does my double Kozilek's Command actually end up keeping up with that? I think the answer is yes. I also think my opponent is incentivized to just remove Glaring Fleshraker immediately. Okay, sure. 18. They hit the 1 ring. Yeah, hitting the 1 ring is, like, really bad. Okay, so they are going to pay all their energy to fly in. That's fine. I'll take that. Ooh, nice. So choose Eldrazi. Kozilek's Command. Make spawns. Exile a creature. Make spawns. Exile a creature. We do this for X equals 2. And we're going to get some Glaring Fleshraker triggers here. 17. And nuke that creature. Go to 15. I'll pass the turn. I am not interested in casting a small Kozilek's Command here when I can untap and cast a massive one that bridges me to my endgame. 3rd land drop. I don't even care about a Blood Moon at this point. Haste. I'm not the biggest fan of this guy. I can't lie to you. I'm not the biggest fan of Obsidian Charmaw. I'm going to attack for probably 6 here. Yeah. I'll just take all of that. I'm at 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is 6. I, in theory, want to All Is Dust next turn. I think I'm not going to imprint under Ugin's Labyrinth. I'm gonna just attack for 2. I think before my opponent has red mana open to like bolt this or something, I want to cast this. We're gonna go spawns scry? Yeah, let's go spawns scry. No, actually, let's spawns and still exile the creature. That incentivizes my opponent to play out more creatures to get caught harder by All Is Dust. So 4 more of those. Pass. Yeah, so there's a tapped land, and my opponent's Arena of Glory is tapped. So we'd love for my opponent to play out something like an Ajani, and I just take out 3 bodies with All Is Dust. Sure, that's fine. So I'll take 4 in the air. Go to 7. Yeah. I can go 1, 2, 3, 4, play Thought-Knots here, and then have 6 of these, so no. So love tap for 2. Opponent goes to 6. We are fine with this taking 2 cards out here. Opponent will throw this either at a spawn or my face. They did not. Individual points of damage seems super relevant with Arena of Glory here. Sure. Those points of life gain are super relevant right now. Okay. Yet that heralds the end. Yeah. So 1 and 2, we'll play that. That pings opponent for 1, putting them to 5. Then let's see what this final card is. As they go to 4, then ultimately 3. Okay, it is a basic land. I can attack with Glaring Fleshraker. That gives my opponent a Planeswalker. I don't think I like that. So we'll pass the turn here and probably go for an Alpha Strike next turn. Margins on this one are pretty tight, though. Ooh, hoo, hoo, hoo. That is an interesting draw. At 3 life, it's a little spooky, but Guide of Souls, in theory, can do a lot of work here. Like if my opponent draws something like an Ocelot Pride off that draw. Land? Okay. I am going to hold that and not play that. I'll just pass the turn here. So this is now a very big turn for my opponent. They need to gain some life. Surveil land is probably not what my opponent is looking for. They want creatures that gain life. They want things that can take my Glaring Fleshraker off the board. Although that Herald's the End is also a problem there. Okay, we got a little lucky there, but my opponent was also just dead to their 1 ring next turn, or maybe the following turn. This was a very close game. Is Modern a 1-deck format? Like, okay. No 7-drop in this hand. I just go hit that Herald's the End and hit that Herald's the End into Thought-Knots here. That's fine. Maybe we'll be the beatdown this game rather than control. If I spike a 7-drop, I can also just play Thought-Knots here on turn 2. And that's like cool and ahead of curve. Ooh. Ah. Hit that Herald's the End's cousin. More It That Herald's the End. Despite having 2 pseudo-soul lands, I don't get to play both of those this turn. It's probably fine. Alright, take your energy. Sure. Now, how scared of this am I? I can just remove that scry draw. I'm significantly less good at dealing with the Planeswalker side if my opponent draws something like a Goblin Bombardment. So let's do this. Or I could just spawns. Yeah, I could just spawns. That probably makes my next turn good. These spawns also have real amounts of power and toughness. I mean, real amounts. 3rd land drop is where I could, in theory, get Blood Mooned. How do they always have it? How do they always have it? Draw basic wastes. Negative. So let's do this. Exile a creature, make spawns. Make spawns, exile a creature. Yeah, yeah. +4. Oh, +5 because of It That Heralds the End. Sure. I think I like saving all of them, playing an It That Heralds the End next turn, and just trying to go wide of my opponent. Yeah. I didn't need to do this at sorcery speed then. I don't know, I get 2 points of damage. 2 points of damage is relevant in my Glaring Fleshraker deck. Sure. Sure. First strike is a little annoying here. Plage. That was a lot of life gain this turn. Sure. My plan of going wide is a lot less good now. We'll use one of these. 2, 3, 4. Well, Thought Not Seer. Oh god. They're pretty good cards. I think Goblin Bombardment is ultimately the most annoying. My spawns do matter. I think this is worth it. And I'll pass turn here. I can't really block the Amped Raptor right now, awkwardly. Yeah, sure. That's not quite how I thought it was going to go down, but it's not necessarily bad. My opponent is going to give the Amped Raptor, like, flying instead. Yes, that is going to happen. Okay. I do not have mana for that through Blood Moon. I take 1 more damage if I attack with Thought Not Seer to Guide of Souls attacking in. I think that's fine. I want to keep my opponent from accumulating a whole bunch of life. Cards in Graveyard are now a really important resource. Fetch lands aren't valid to get extra things into Graveyard. Right, the Ragavan. I didn't take 1 more. I really took 3 more for that attack. That was a bad attack. I think I like my evaluation of boarding this card out because of situations like this one. Yeah, so this ends up being a fair amount of damage this turn. That was preventable. I'm going to let the Ragavan hit me. I have a very limited amount of true colorless mana. You can cast a Chalice of the Void on 1 if you want. I would be fine with it. Okay, so they're just going to cast another Ragavan. I wonder if it was correct to just cast regular Ragavan pre-combat, go up the extra energy to push 2 more damage this turn. Now the dashed one is gone. That's probably not going to do it. So my opponent makes Ragavan fly, and I am effectively dead. Not literally, but effectively dead. I don't have to worry about Flage coming back yet, but it's real close. 1 more card hitting Graveyard does it because of this treasure token. Yeah, not attacking with Thought Not Seer was really important. Alright, F6. Oh, fuck. All his dust isn't an out, right? Because I all his dust, and then my opponent just brings back Flage. And it's lethal. Okay, last card's a land. Means Gigantha is also a thing. That is not gonna do it. I made a couple mistakes this game. The Thought Not Seer attack was bad. I think the Sorcery Speed Kozilek's command was bad. I can give myself the flexibility to remove a different creature or scry and draw. I think I could have played that one a little tighter and maybe get another card or 2 deeper into the deck. Welp. I think we've more or less got sideboarding for this matchup figured out. Relics in, Dismembers in, and I've been trimming one of these. Yeah, this is fine. You get Devourer of Destinies to find another piece of gas, hopefully. Turn 1 Relic, turn 2 Chalice? Or do I want Dismember? I think I want Chalice. So, yeah, and yeah. Opponent will fetch. We'll keep the graveyard in check. At some point, I can probably cycle one of these relics. I'll do it after I play the other one for glaring Fleshraker purposes. So, I now get to play a Chalice, which means that my opponent can't go like 1-drop, 1-drop. It means that my glaring Fleshraker is safer. But if my opponent plays something like Ajani specifically here, I will sort of wish that I had Dismember rather than Chalice. But hopefully this game goes on for a little while and the Chalice does a lot of work. I'll remove that. Sure. So energy, 2 energy, Damping Sphere. Yeah, so my land's tapped for 1 mana. That's only denying me 1 mana right now, and my opponent's probably more likely to multi-spell than I am. It does mean that I don't get to Thought Not Seer this turn. Eldrazi. Yeah. And pass. I guess the Chalice of the Void is slightly awkward with the second relic. Oops. I wasn't actively considering that. Thinking about it now, I still get a cast trigger, so it's still just 1 mana, store a mana for later. That's not the end of the world. That I dislike. So that kills my little friend. Flage goes to graveyard. Flage leaves graveyard. I'll take 3. Get to that heralds the end. I'm thinking about whether or not I want to crack this in an attempt to hit a land drop. I think the answer is no. I can't put another one back into play later due to my own Chalice. I've shut off a decent number of creatures and most of my opponent's removal. So I think I can hope that this game goes long to the point where I get this. That I don't like for multiple reasons. So number one, that's just 2 bodies for immediate energy, making my opponent's attacks much better. Number two, once something flies, I'm much worse at stalling out the board. Yeah. I just take 5 this turn. I think now I need to crack the relic. I think it's just incredibly important that I do not miss my next land drop. Fuck. I think I'm dead. Does that evoke for 2? Oh, that evokes for 2. Neat. Okay. So I guess it was incredibly important that I don't miss my next land drop, but this is not quite how I wanted that to go down. I think I'm just going to die to onboard stuff. I conceptually would like to put a new Chalice on a different number. I am passing the turn here. I think I'm dead. Hitting that damping sphere off the Amped Raptor was the critical moment of this game. I am guaranteed taking 5. I'm maybe taking 7. And all is dust or anything reasonably next turn. The Planeswalker probably eats me alive. I think I have no good moves or no real outs here. I don't know what I am playing towards. Ugh. Yikes. Alright. The Boros Menace puts a win on the board. Alright. We do get to play against a different deck this time. The first play I have is a turn 3 Trinisphere. I don't think that's reasonable. This is probably fine. I think I keep this, put a Trinisphere back into the deck, do Gemstone Caverns, get rid of a Trinisphere, and play Chalice of the Void into Glaring Fleshraker, and hope that ends up being good. Blue land. Chalice on 1, probably good if it resolves. Let's see if it does. Yeah. Hot damn. Gemstone Caverns doing some work. A blue-black deck. We get to die to Psychic Frog in this format too. Not immediately, at least. Eldrazi? I am going to cast cards into my opponent's counterspells. Like, it's fine. I have probably shut off a decent portion of their deck, so I think 1-for-1 trades are going to be favorable for me. Yeah, that's fine. Alright, no more lands. Nice. So that's uncounterable. Could still die it. Okay, that's fair. So I don't know what my opponent is playing. I don't know what blue-black in this format represents. I'm going to take a second to try to figure that out. So it looks like there's a Dimir control deck that is indeed playing Psychic Frog and is playing Abhorrent Oculus. You have to exile 6 cards from your graveyard to cast it. So yeah, the graveyard matters. Looks like my opponent's deck is highly mana efficient, so Trinisphere is probably not crazy. This thing, as well as my opponent's frogs, probably dies to Dismember, probably. Harbinger of the Seas sucks. So I want these, can consider these. I am unsure if Trinisphere is better than just playing more threats. All is Dust is probably a bit less necessary here. I maybe still keep a couple in deck as expensive additional answers to my opponent going wide of what I am doing. Chalice on 1, on turn 1 again. Seems reasonable. I'll discard an It That Heralds the End. I think I just keep my mana. My opponent just passing. Gemstone Caverns. Basically cheating. Do we get in under Spell Pierce type cards? Ooh. That card's in this format too. I hope a Psychic Frog doesn't come down on this turn. Nice. So I can Sowing Mycospawn into Chalice on 1, or I can just Chalice on... No, I can't Chalice on 2. Yeah, then I like Sowing Mycospawn here. Sometimes this just gets hit with a counterspell, but I think I'm good with Make 'em Have It here. So then this gets Ugin's Labyrinth, put Devourer of Destinies under it, and I immediately, just for tempo reasons, attempt Chalice on 1. Opponent says no. I wonder if, in respect of Harbingers of the Sea, I should not actually cast, or like try to cast Chalice of the Void that turn, and if I should just get basic wastes. I think I made a mistake. Yeah, I think I made a mistake there. If I get basic wastes, I can also just go 2, 4, 5, 6, 7 and cast this turn, or just take a turn off to cast Chalice. We'll see. But I don't like how I played this game. Opponent saying no to a Psychic Frog. Sure. I think I just dismember this, even though I have... Is this an on-cast trigger? This is an on-cast trigger. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, never mind. I can just go back to hand. Sure. I don't think I need to leave Ghost Quarter up, but it doesn't matter which one I leave up. So let's nuke the frog. Okay, we're in play. That's unexpected against blue mana over there. Opponent's at 9. Is there some sort of damnation-esque sweeper that I should be expecting? I can just kill that with Dismember. I'll wait till my own turn. Just to better play around some sort of Spell Pierce effect, or give myself to just kill it with an on-cast trigger from another one of these guys. Yeah, what does Manifest Dread do? Sure. Maybe I shouldn't have waited. I don't know, playing around a Spell Pierce effect matters. That probably matters more than a random 2/2 body. So we'll go Forest, black mana, 2 life to kill that. Cool. Send in for theoretical lethal. Instead, getting 3 damage through was a Psychic Frog. I'm going to hold the Cavern in hand, not let my opponent know that's coming. And my opponent's got some work out of them. Get a Junk of land. Get a fresh draw. Okay. That's certainly not bad. My opponent gets to do the whole Manifest Dread thing again. Seems good. Cavern on Eldrazi. I'm going to play around like a Spell Pierce here. Let's play around a Spell Pierce. So exile creature, try X, draw a card. X equals 5. No to the land. No to the Herald. I think yes to the rest of these. I'm going to go top, top, and top. I can attempt lethal immediately. I will do so. I'm not playing around Spell Pierce for this one. Okay, we just kind of easily win there. What is this card's name? Abhorrent Oculus. This card is neat. Similar design space as to Murktide Regent. The Unearthed synergies are definitely cool. This seems like a neat deck. I think this hand is a keep. It's a little weird in terms of like having 2 soul lands and like the sequencing, because I can like soul land, Thought Knot Seer, turn 2, that ignores Chalice, makes 1-drops easier to like remove Thought Knot Seer, not maximizing Glaring Fleshbreaker value. But I think this hand is still good. Ooh, a mirror or pseudo mirror. Looks like pseudo. It has mana rocks. So I think, depending on how much mana my opponent has this next turn. Ooh, sick. This means that I get time to set up, in which case I am just going to play Glaring Fleshraker to try to help my own mana bottleneck. We're going to ignore these lock pieces for the most part. Why did my opponent keep their hand? So, 4 mana for Eldrazi spells. Cast Glaring Fleshraker. Let's yield to that. Let's yield to this. So, now, cast Chalice of the Void. X equals 0. 2 Glaring Fleshraker triggers. Cast Chalice of the Void. X equals 0. Get it countered by my Chalice of the Void. 2 Glaring Fleshraker triggers. Pew, 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 pew. Alright, fantastic. Thought Knot Seer with that floating extra mana. Ya, and ya. 2 Glaring Fleshraker triggers. Pew, 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 pew. Do this thing. Target you. Look at your hand. Yeah, why the fuck did you keep that? What? Hold on, what did you mulligan to? What did you mulligan to? Okay, you mulligan to 4. I forgive you. I forgive you. Yeah. So we take the 1 ring, and then we play a Trinisphere. Lol. What are you through the breaching in? This guy? Okay. So, Chalice bad. Trinisphere bad. Wastecape Battle Mage good. Disruptor Flute for the 1 ring good. Do we fuck around with... not... do we fuck around with this too? What does the rest of my opponent's deck look like? I think we're looking at something that looks like this. So the small removal, like Dismember, is not super gonna matter. I'll play one Damping Matrix as another Disruptor Flute for the One Ring. But I don't know that I want to cut anything that has power and toughness. This can dig pretty deep for something relevant. Oh, fuck. All Is Dust does, like, nothing. I can dig pretty deep here, but I have 2 dead cards. That's my fault. What would these be otherwise? Dismembers and Damping Matrix? Eh. I don't think this one's a keep. So, Ugin's Labyrinth, Imprint, and All Is Dust that I'm not going to use. Turn 2, I do a draw 2. I am going to keep this. I don't think I need the second one of these. My opponent is going to 4. Devourer of Destinies. Eldrazi Temple. Pass? Sure. Glaring Flesh. My opponent has said good game. Yeah, rough mulligans for you. I think I'm going to take Glaring Fleshraker here. Play Eldrazi Temple and pass. There's second land drop. All Cavernous Souls. On Eldrazi. Play my Glaring Fleshraker and pass. Alright, opponent's getting mana at least. So I am going to go 1, 2, and 3. Just evoke my Nulldrifter. Store up some mana for a little bit later. There is a Disruptor Flute. Ping my opponent. So we'll play Ugin's Labyrinth. Put an All Is Dust under there. Go to combat. Attack for 2. Put my opponent to 16. Go to their turn. 2 mana. Cast Disruptor Flute. Ping my opponent again. We're going to name the One Ring. That way my opponent can't get a fog. And then next turn I have kicked Sowing Mycospawn, which seems pretty good. So yeah. Oh, no. Cast with kicker. So yeah. When it's kicked, we'll exile a land. We'll go with the Eldrazi Temple since that produces 2 mana. I don't know that Ghost Quarter really matters right now. I'll just take another Eldrazi Temple. Do a couple of pings to my opponent. Send in for 2. And I have a couple of big cards here for if my opponent puts something into play, I can potentially exile it. A sweeper happens, I just have large creatures still. I think this deck plays the sweeper that comes back when you play an Eldrazi. I don't remember the name of it. I believe it's an instant, so I don't think I play it that heralds the end before combat. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, let's just get my 5 damage in. Yeah. But then I can go... It just like doesn't matter to play this, even though I can. So I think I just don't play it to not put extra bodies onto the board. No colored permanents in play to target. Deal a little damage to my opponent. Deal a little damage to my opponent. All that good. Ugin's Labyrinth. Sure. Reveal the top 4 cards of your library. For each card type, you may exile a card of that type from among them. Put the rest into your graveyard. You may cast a spell from among them without paying its mana cost. Sure. Multiple sweepers. But that's not good enough. I just hit my opponent for 6 and they die. So we end up with a 4-1 in this league. Alright, so what do we think of this Eldrazi deck? Well, I'm going to give it a huge thumbs up, because this was powerful enough to carry me through the league. There were lots of things that I didn't know. I think I objectively made lots of mistakes, many of which I realized, some of which I probably did not. I would be comfortable picking this up and taking this to a tournament, even on limited reps. This deck feels objectively powerful. You get some free wins with Chalice of the Void, which I like. Sowing Mycospawn is noticeably less powerful than it is in Legacy. I still don't mind having some of them in there, like kicking it to keep your opponents off of lands or ramp you to the 7 drops is totally fine. It's an okay bridge card. I think it makes sense as the 2 of that it is. I don't know that I'd want to cut them for, say, another Trinisphere or something like that. I don't believe that I ever hardcast a Nulldrifter in this league. I think that's just kind of due to how they lined up. I missed the It That Heralds the End, reducing the evoke cost early on, so there might have been some times early on in the league where I could have played that on 2 mana and didn't. But generally speaking, MH3 cards, good. If you can play lots of them alongside some legacy staples like Chalice of the Void and Trinisphere, it kind of makes sense to do so. Alright folks, I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. If you need some magic cards, need to complete this deck, 2amagic.com, promo code ThrabenU to let them know that I sent you. Alrighty, see ya!